All right, let's get this going. Good morning, everyone. Kind of a cold morning. I don't know if any of you have been outside, but I was kind of shook. Got a little spoiled by the 70-degree weather. Yeah, so if you're going outside today, be aware of that. I guess, this is Kansas. Anything is possible, technically. So today, it loads. Today, I'm introducing the very last module of the semester in this class. And I've been telling some of you that it is not anything like any of the other modules, which is why I emphasized so heavily coming to class this morning. I think that most of you will find it different in a really nice way. So if you have any questions about it as I go through, please let me know. But yeah, I think I give you the gist of the information that you need here. Very light agenda today. Really just introducing this next module. Not much else, because there's really not much else to it. In terms of general announcements, I've started grading your papers. Woohoo! My deadline is Friday, April 30th. I really want to have them done earlier than that. But as I've said before, that's my 2-week deadline that I will meet at all costs. I've already said this, but we begin the final module of the course this week. So please, if you have time right after class or sometime today, take a look at the module on Canvas and just make sure that you understand what's going on. It is a really quick turnaround because we only have 2 weeks of coursework left. So you have assignments this week and your paper is actually due next week, but I'll get into that a little bit more. So don't fret about it yet. And this is also our last meeting, which is kind of bittersweet, hence the smile and the frown. I will miss working with all of you, but at the same time, I know we're all really looking forward to summer break. So bittersweet, but also pretty sweet. General paper overview. So there are 2 options for this paper. So this is kind of the gist of both of them. So your final paper for this course can either be a personal development paper or a performance review. Totally up to you. Pick whichever one is more applicable to you, whichever one sounds better or easier, or however you want to determine that. This paper gets to be entirely about you, which some of you may find exciting, some of you may find slightly terrifying. I'm in the slightly terrifying camp. I don't write about myself very well. But whichever method of paper you choose, you will need to do some sort of reflection on the previous 3 modules. So how you have learned and or expanded your view on the rhetorical appeals, how you've applied those into responding to other people's work, how you have employed those rhetorical appeals and research and considering a skeptical audience like you did for your 3rd paper, etc. It'll be a good help for you as you do these assignments that are coming up and thinking about this paper that is due next Friday, to look back at the comments that I've been leaving you on your papers, on those bigger assignments that are intended to be drafting the paper, etc. So the first type, the professional development paper, can be done one of 2 ways. You can find a scholarship to apply for or an internship or job to apply for. I don't expect you to actually apply for either of those things, but I do want you to have a specific audience that you are writing to, a specific purpose for this paper. It can't just be a general application. It needs to be directed to someone. And the key thing here is that you will need to find a way to market the skills that we've been practicing in English 200 in this paper. So it can't be like general. If you've applied for a job before, you'll need to add your English 200 experience to that somehow. I don't want to see like a general resume. Some sort of English 200 specific reflection thinking is necessary for both of the papers. The nice thing about this paper is that it's going to look like a letter, which I think a lot of us think are just easier to write. And it only has to be at least 2 pages long. So half the length of the others. That's why I hope that this will be a nice way to end the semester on shorter writing that hopefully you can see the direct application to your future. Then the other option is the performance review. So this is a lot more of an evaluation of your participation in English 200, as well as how you interacted with the course objectives. So you can think about it in a couple of ways. The first one, and what many of you may find to be the most easiest, is to write your letter to me and consider me in a way your employer and discuss the semester, your performance, etc., to me as if I were your employer. The reason that this method of thinking may be helpful for you is that I'm sure that every one of you, if you have a job in the future, a professional job, you're going to be doing some sort of performance review with a superior, with a manager, etc. They'll ask you to give a brief synopsis, brief summary of how well you've been doing at your job so that they can go over it when you have like your yearly review or something. So this is something that for most of you will be in your future. And if you want to get a little bit of practice on how to write that, because like I said before, writing about yourself can seem really hard, this is a great opportunity to practice that. And just like the other paper, this paper needs to be letter format, 2 pages long. So they both have the same requirements, which hopefully, like I said, hopefully you find relatively easy. So I touched on this briefly in the last slide, but why in the world am I writing about myself? You may be wondering. Well, both of these options are extremely applicable to your academic and your future career. As I said with the first option, you can find a scholarship, job, internship, etc. to apply for. That's something that I think if you haven't already done, you will be doing in the future. And then I noted last slide too, that when you apply for a job, a raise, graduate school, law school, for scholarships, you'll need to write a personal statement. And these are very difficult to write. I absolutely can attest from personal experience. When I wrote my personal statement to get into graduate school, it's the hardest paper I've ever had to write. Was several pages analyzing myself. It seems really weird, but it's very necessary, and I'm glad that I had some practice at doing it. So this module is intended to do just that, to give you that practice on how to analyze yourself. So the whole unit as a glance. I've said several times, the schedule of this module is very different. This week you have assignments that are intended to prepare you for this final paper, to get you reflecting on the past 3 modules, etc. Next week, the paper is due. So next week, what it looks like is no class on Monday, no meet with shared and assignment required. I will more than happily meet with anyone who wants to, but this assignment, it's hard for me to look at the objectives that you're meeting because you're analyzing yourself and I don't know all of the intricacies of who you are. So it's a lot more difficult for me to critique that aspect. So if you want to meet with me to go over anything, absolutely do so, but it's not required. But we will be practicing peer review, which the schedule for that looks like it always does. Rough drafts due Monday. I guess I didn't note here, but I'll only require a page. So hopefully that seems inviting and doable. Peer reviews return back to your partners on Wednesday the 28th, and then papers turned in on Friday the 30th. And there are only 3 assignments for this module. I really hope that excites some of you. It really excites me. Anyway, tonight you have a reflection activity due. This just asks you to generally assess your strengths, potential areas for improvement, what you learned, potential real-world applications, of the past 3 papers that we've written. The assignment for Wednesday is a free writing and reflection claim. So I have on the assignment several objectives from the course, and you can write 3 brief paragraphs about how you experience those objectives. These should help you kind of craft some of the body paragraphs of this letter that you're about to write, because like I said, it needs to have an emphasis on what you learned in English 200. And this assignment will ask you to consider like a thesis claim that you can make about yourself and like the skills that you learned based off of English 200. There are a lot of instructions on that assignment, so read through them carefully and let me know if you have any questions about it. And then the last one is the discussion. I've got 2 student examples that I have posted to that assignment. And you as a student should post at least 3 observations that you make about it. I really hope that this helps some of you out, because when you have to write about yourself, sometimes you really don't know where to start. So hopefully these examples will give you a glimpse into like what the best practices are and what the standard is for this type of writing. I'll also be doing the extra credit little 1 point up to 5 for each response that you give to a peer. So for those of you who want a bit more classmate interaction, that works. For those of you who don't, no worries. And I decided not to do a reading quiz this week. You're welcome. I'm just gonna like sit and smile for a moment because I'm very proud of myself on that one. The reading is really short for this week. It loosely relates to chapter 5. You'll see that in the reading assignment. It doesn't cover all of chapter 5. I only picked out certain sections for you to read. So that's good. I reread both of them last night just to make sure that that's what I wanted to include. And it was a very brief time of reading. So like I said, I'm just excited for you guys. I know that some of you are worn out, and I'm really hoping that this helps a bit. So what are we doing after April 30th? Because there's like a week there between finals and not finals. So the last week of this class will be devoted to revising that persuasive research essay. April 30th, as you remember from the previous slides, is my deadline to get those graded and back to you. So you'll have that entire week, really more like potentially 2 weeks up through finals week, more like halfway through finals week because I have to have my grades submitted. Anyway, we'll go over that in more detail. Will be devoted to revising the 3rd paper. So that should be a nice chunk of time for you to do that and really put some considerable effort into it if you need to and boost that grade. There'll also be an extra credit module posted. I am currently working on adding to it, but it's really cool. I really like it. I don't get to touch a whole lot on grammar in this class, and I absolutely love grammar. So the extra credit module is all about like basic grammar functions. So some of you may find that really fun. Some of you may find it daunting. Either way, I'm offering extra credit for completing them. So it's really cool. And this is an important note that paper 4 can't be revised. We just don't have time for it. So just make sure that you're happy with what you turn in. Don't submit a presentation draft under the assumption that you'll revise it later, because you can't revise it later. So give it your best shot on the first try. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
I had a question about the revision of the persuasive paper. If we get like a good grade and we're like okay with it, is it required for that last week? Okay.
No, but I will always accept revisions. So I tell many of you all the time that all writing can always be improved. So even if you get that A, shoot for a higher A. Like, absolutely, go for it. Does anyone else have a question? I'll take that as a no. Haha, Devin confirms in the chat that that's a no. I will say that I am missing some papers from last night. So if you haven't submitted that, make sure you get it turned in because I am really trying to trudge through grading and beat my personal record of only ever meeting my 2-week deadline. I really want to be ahead of it this time. So help me out in that regard by getting your paper in and email me if you have any questions. But yeah, with that, goodbye.
Goodbye.